we have, on the left side, we have LVCreed, on the right, kammesennin. Looks like LVCreed's going to start with Quickman, kammesennin's going to start with Flashman. Now, the way this bracket was drawn, there was a qualifying stage, and LVCreed, to qualify for this bracket stage, had defeated Easy Danger and X-Apollo 2, taking the quickest path possible through the winner's bracket. kammesennin, unfortunately, took a loss along the way, and his route was a little bit more interesting. Taking out Infinite Mystery in the first round, losing to Mega Kyle 83, but able to run it back against Matt Philly in the loser's side to make the final bracket. And that's where we have both of our runners here in the first round of the final bracket.
And as you'll see, LVCreed elected to start with Quickman, and kammesennin opted to go with Flashman to start. Two pretty common first Robot Masters to attack. Having items for either of those two stages doesn't necessarily let you go much faster in the randomizer, so they're good for that. And also, both have relatively free E-tanks that you can pick up, which can always come in handy in a randomizer when you have no idea what kind of boss AI you're getting. And both players are already at their first boss. LVCreed meeting Woodman in Quickman stage, and kammesennin meeting Heatman in Flashman stage. Both making pretty quick work of these guys. I think they were both weak to, or semi-weak to Buster at the very least, so...
Now, the way the bosses work is that, since this is easy mode, 4 of the bosses will take 2 points of damage from the Buster Shot, and the other 4 bosses will take 4 damage. So, basically, all of the bosses have some level of weakness against the regular Buster Shot. Heatman definitely was taking 4 points of damage, or I think kammesennin would be about halfway through the fight right now.
Oh, looks. I was gonna say it looked like that frog had Buster invincibility, but it was just that a bat was placed directly over top of it and was surprised me.
Well, it looks like one of the few places where our fat fans will show up and not really cause all kinds of havoc is inside of this particular stage that kammesennin's on in Quickman. LVCreed actually going into Woodman stage fairly early on. I believe there was a gentleman's agreement that Game 1 was going to be fought on kammesennin's terms, and both runners are going to use the Buster-only strategy.
That was my understanding as well. So Creed is playing probably a little out of his general element here. He tends to he's more of a standard runner, uses normal basic every weapon available strats, but as kammesennin is a Buster only runner primarily, he elected to do this first match at the very least on even terms with kammesennin. So interesting to see how that works out for him, given that he's probably a little less familiar with a lot of the Buster-only strats used in Randomizer here.
Well, I believe, well, you'll see not very much, switching into weapons, and I believe the only zip that you'll see either runner use is in the Bubble Man stage, because that does not require any item to actually trigger the zip.
Correct. And speaking of Bubble Man, we find that he is at the end of Woodman stage. And Creed makes pretty short work of him. No no trouble for Creed against Bubbleman there.
Yeah, it looks like we have free-range chickens here today.
And it looks like item 2 also comes along with Woodman stage / Bubbleman boss in this run. So that's nice. Although it's less valuable to these guys as they're doing a Buster only run, unfortunately, to get item 2 so early. But that's already gotten on so far in this run, which is good.
Now, depending on how they've done the agreement, normally you would see item 2 used in Heatman stage to go through the Yoku block section. Kammesennin, I know, does not use item 2 for that section. Unfortunately, he's taken a death in the Woodman stage here.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty difficult section to deal with there with the Sniper Joes and the mechs. The mechs do a boatload of damage, and it looked like kammesennin was trying to avoid taking more damage, which kind of put him in a place where he was basically just going to fall into that pit. When you have both Joes with shields and the mechs in that area, it can be pretty tough to try to avoid them both. This is one of the biggest reasons why if you can use the zips in Woodman stage on the randomizer, it might not be the worst idea, just because you can avoid sticky situations such as that. But true blue runners don't mind a little bit of extra difficulty for sure.
Yeah, as you can see on the top of our screen, we've been working on a tracker for most of the stages so that we can see straight away which stages are done. Unfortunately, it looks like the basic design's been implemented. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be working right now. I don't know if it will be working. I can hope. But right now, you know, I just want to mention that if everybody happens to see on the top the 8 Robot Masters and the 3 items.
Yeah, once thanks to Daggett for making the tracker. Though at the moment it doesn't seem like it'll be up for this particular race, but we'll have it up for future races for sure, and it'll make it a little easier on everybody to track. You know, what bosses and items have been accrued to that point in the race. Being that it's a randomizer, that kind of information isn't necessarily obvious based on the general routing. So it's a nice feature to have for everybody, commentators included, I can say.
Oh, very much so. I can't tell you how many times I'm going, you know, I think he has 6 stages done, and then I look like a doofus because then the Wily shows up and it's like, oh, I must have blinked and missed 2 stages somehow.
So we mentioned earlier a Zip and Bubbleman stage. That's what kammesennin is trying to trigger right now. He pause buffers. Pausing in Mega Man 2 resets your fall velocity and allows you to travel horizontally much further than you would through just regularly falling, and you can get stuck in that ceiling there, and by so doing it allows you to trigger a zip and skip over one of the longest walking sections in the game. And considering that in both Mega Man 1 and 2 you walk a little slower in water, it definitely is a significant time save.
Ooh, now this... Ooh, there we go. kammesennin found his way through. Looked like he was about to get trapped in there, but looks like we have Crash Man at the end of Metal Man stage, and he's a little spicy meatball today, jumping around and actually throwing bombs instead of just kind of walking around and doing nothing.
This sure seems like a Crash Man that is he's not a friendly neighborhood Crash Man by any stretch. He's a pretty angry guy throwing a lot of bombs around the room. But LVCreed perseveres and makes his way through there. And that is his 4th Robot Master by my count. And kammesennin finishes off Airman, who was in Bubbleman stage, for his fourth Robot Master as well. So we're pretty close. Pretty close race so far. 10 minutes in, just about right on top of each other, really.
Yeah, absolutely. There's about a 15-second difference, I want to say, between the runners, but you know, you just happen to take a death, and next thing you know, that 15-second difference turns into, you know, an advantage before taking the death, and now, you're behind by that same 15 seconds. It's really just a matter of kammesennin taking that death in the Woodman stage.
I mean, and as of right now, speaking of you know, being at about the same pace, they will be pretty much even here, both on the ready screen at the same time in Heatman stage, dealing with a pretty rough Heatman first room here. A lot of Sniper Joes with mechs, and this is a pretty rough room, just based on the fact that these enemies are relatively difficult to kill. But adding to that difficulty is the fact that they put a lot of sprites on screen, which can create quite a bit of lag, which makes doing these jumps, it increases the degree of difficulty quite a bit. So, see LVCreed making his way through. He's already burned, I think, 2 E-tanks in this stage so far, but it looks like he's through the first portion here, and if it looks like he's collecting health and trading a little bit of health for some more. And now he's finally into the second room, so hopefully things are gonna continue along a little better from this point on. kammesennin's still having some difficulty here. Again, these mechs and the Joes, it's just a lot of lag, a lot of sprites, and a lot of things that can hit you the entire way, which make this section pretty difficult for sure, especially for a Buster-only runner.
Yeah, this is a section where you can't really damage boost your way through because you run out of, you know, life points to actually damage boost with, and that makes for a difficult time.
Oh, absolutely.
I just got Destructoid Mr. Roboto there, so you're gonna have to carry me a little bit here.
Oh, no worries, no worries. You might have a little more success taking deboosts if you were able to only take damage from the bullets the entire way, but that's especially difficult when there's so many things that are trying to hit you on screen. And we see LVCreed here. He's working his way through some Yoku blocks. No problem for Creed. I'm sure he's done that Yoku section plenty of times without a safety net of item 2. But he with Creed moving through here, we get to see Flashman in Heatman stage. We see what kind of AI he has. He's a pretty jumpy boy, but doesn't seem super bad, and Creed's able to take him out.
Yeah, this stage is proving to be very difficult. kammesennin taking 2 game overs so far, it looks like, with and the unfortunate part is, normally when you have a stage that's a little rough, you would just go, alright, I'm gonna come back a little later. But with Buster only, that doesn't really help because you're not going to be using items. So this is just a matter of trying to persevere as best you can to get through this stage. No,
exactly, and it again, the Buster only is just an added degree of difficulty that creates that makes it all the more harder to get through situations like this. You know, if you were playing anything besides True Blue, you'd probably just say, okay, well, I have a few weapons here. I'm gonna see which one can wipe out these mechs and Joes in one hit and be done with it. Unfortunately, True Blue doesn't let you do that. So you basically are dealing with pretty rough opening screen. Like I said, a lot of lag. And it really, I mean, me personally, I would argue that the lag.
You can't do that. You should know better.
I can say the allure of the health drop there when you're so low on health is so strong that even when you know better, you think maybe this time it'll work.
Now, to let you know what I was referring to, if you go down into the lava to pick up a large health power-up, you will actually die because you lose your invincibility frames during the pickup, and then the game goes, oh, you're in lava. You're dead. Thanks. Have a nice day.
Looks like Airman is finished off, so Creed has managed to beat, I believe that's his 6th Robot Master here.
I believe you are correct.
And yep, he has 2 left.
That, and I think kammesennin might want to spend a little time trying to farm the enemies here, but it looks like he's just gonna get to the checkpoint and try to get this going. Ah, there we go. Nice drop there.
This'll be an interesting sequence here for Creed in Airman stage. He's got some running chickens through all these jumps. Luckily, they're weak to Buster and they only take 1 shot, so it makes traversing this a little easier. If you're unlucky enough to get these where the chickens take multiple shots, up to 5, 6, or 8 shots to Buster down, getting through something like this can be exceedingly difficult. Luckily, with 1 hits, it's much more feasible to work your way through the stage here. And he seems to be making his way relatively easily through that first section.
Now, with the degree of difficulty the Airman stage can present, this looks like a fairly tame first half for LVCreed compared to a lot of other things that I could see happening.
I mean, one hit chickens are a lot better than just about any other kind of chicken you can see there. It's still probably not what you want to see, but you can get into a rhythm and work your way through them for sure. And it looks like Creed's made it to Flashman in Heatman stage, so hopefully he has 1 life left, so he might he's trying to Buster him down, but didn't have quite enough health walking in there, but that's okay. He's got another life here, so he should be able to make his way through Flashman with a full health bar of his own.
Yeah, I think kammesennin had, if he had any E-tanks, he would have been using them up at the beginning of this stage to try to get through that first part. And unfortunately, with having so much difficulty, I believe he is at least 2 stages, if not 3 stages behind at this point.
Let's see. Creed gets item 3 and moves on to Crashman stage. And that would put him... kammesennin, by my count, is 2 stages behind Creed at the moment.
Yeah, this is kammesennin's 6th stage, and LVCreed is on his 8th, having survived the absolute nightmare Heatman stage at this
Buster
point.
only eliminates the option of a zip here.
And also the use of item 1 on the elevators as well.
This is not a particularly terrible set of enemies to show up on that screen. That's certainly not the best, but these little pea shooters aren't too bad.
this is going to be the second stage here. Excuse me, the second screen more so than the stage. This is the one that might cause LVCreed some issues. It's definitely going to slow him down, but I don't think it would be enough that it's going to allow kammesennin to readily get back, any part of the deficit that LVCreed has put kammesennin into.
Yeah, Heatman stage, unfortunately for kammesennin, I don't think he had quite as many E-tanks as Creed did walking into that stage, and like I said, I saw Creed burn at least 2 separate E-tanks there, so... but we get our second look at Metal Man here in Airman stage as kammesennin goes to work on him, and high metal, bi-metal, and onwards for kammesennin.
Yeah, when you get a boss that is weaker to the Buster, like Metal Man was, and you can just hit them repeatedly, they go down pretty quick. And kammesennin has Metal Man, where hopefully he'll pick up 2 E-tanks. Creed will, I believe, pick up 1 here in the Crashman stage, and that's the only one that he will have going into at least the rest of this stage.
I'm not positive that he will. If he's playing True Blue, I'm not sure he can get that E-tank without a significant bit of backtracking. That's not a jump that you can make from down there back up to that platform.
True. You're right.
You can make that jump for the 1-up on the left side of that screen, but as the runners are not looking at each other's screens, they don't really know what whether they have a lead or whether they're behind or anything like that. So they're basically playing as to be as fast as they can. To some extent, throwing all caution to the wind for sure.
Yeah. Ooh, LVCreed's got to be careful here. Oh, he dodged boomerangs. Well done.
What a clutch boomerang dodge by Creed. That was absolutely phenomenal.
I was about ready to say, yeah, LVCreed's going to end up getting taken down by Quickman here. I'm thinking there's no way he's going to dodge, that salvo of boomerangs, and somehow he pulls it off. And LVCreed at 22 minutes, 50 seconds is on our way into the Wily 1 stage. And would you like to inform everybody about what we do when we get to the Wily 1 stage?
The Wily 1 stage, we get to play a game we like to call Guess the Color of the Dragon. And for bonus points, you can guess his weakness. The dragon is like many other things in this game is random. His weakness and both his color and his color scheme are random. So feel free in the chats to guess what color of a dragon you think we're gonna see. I think the last time we did a race together, Frico, I want to say I guessed hot pink, and I believe I was right. So I'm gonna stick with hot pink again.
Oh, gonna stay with the hot hand, as it were? Alright.
Exactly.
Well, I am going to go a little more generic, as we will. I'm gonna pull one out of the Yu-Gi-Oh hat, and I'm gonna go with the Blue Eyes White Dragon. Ooh. And I'm also going to go so far as to say that it's going to be the air shooter that the dragon will be weak to.
I'm gonna say that given the seed so far and that it's been a little mean at times, I'm gonna say we're gonna get kind of a mean weakness for the dragon. So I'm gonna say wood. It's definitely one of my least favorite weapons to have to use when fighting the dragon. So figure I'll go with that.
Leap shield and
excellent use of the menu by Creed there to avoid avoid getting hit by those Joes. You can actually pause buffer through bullet strikes if you're in the wrong position. I don't know if it would have tagged him, but it was pretty close. So it was a good use of the pause buffer regardless. Looks like a
blue dragon with a light blue. Is that like a teal with a hint of green? Well, so far not good. Now it's entirely possible that we could both be right. Well, not now because
Dragon?
Quick Boomerang is one of the items or weapons that the dragon is weak to.
I guess the question to ask when Boomerang works is this even randomized?
Yeah, very true.
And kammesennin is making his way through the Clash Climb or the Crash Climb, whichever catches your fancy. And we see more Sniper Joes and their mechs. We just can't get away from these guys. They are everywhere today. They just don't want to leave our runners alone.
Yeah, that's one of those enemies where you just want to make them go away. Now, kammesennin's actually going to go up the middle ladder here, and he will use a secondary zip to go over to the right side ladder and continue the climb upward.
Yeah, that's actually a little trick that is used for anybody that's familiar with Mega Man 1. The early magnet grab uses a very similar, it's actually the exact same technique. There's a unique property of Mega Man where if you grab a ladder by pushing down on the same frame that you shoot the Buster, he will be high up on the ladder, which if you push up, it will put him in a position to zip. It's especially interesting. It's actually used in Mega Man 2 as well, although a little easier. The quick boomerang, because Mega Man shoots continuously, it's used during a normal run's Woodman zip to do basically the exact same thing.
Well, now with LVCreed in the Pikatan fight, we see that the Leaf Shield is very effective here, and it looks like we might get a little bit of a coffee break for LVCreed just kind of standing in the middle and letting the...
That's when I said Woodman was going to be the weakness there. I meant Pika-Kun. That's what I was talking about earlier. Obviously.
Okay.
I just I got ahead of myself. That's all.
Well, that's all right.
That is
happens sometimes.
As a randomizer runner, that is pretty much the ideal fight. You can just stand there. You can give your hands a break. You can relax for a few seconds and just let Pika-Kun, run into you and take himself out. It's very... It's a nice calming experience. Lets you get your self in order for the next few stages for sure.
And now, I don't think either of the runners have been able to test the crash walls due to the Buster-only agreement for Game 1 of this match. I think they've tested that the Buster is not going to be the item that takes down our crash walls. Aside from that, I think they have to wait until they're in the Boo Beam area itself before they can go and test that out.
That is my understanding of a Buster-only randomizer run. I do know that at least one of the runners has tested to make sure that the Buster is not the weakness. I saw a few shots tink off at various points, but now we get LVCreed looking at a lime green Gutsman on my screen. It's a good looking color on Guts, I gotta say. It's nice.
Can I unsee this monstrosity?
This is some key lime Gutsman, it looks like to me. And it... Oh!
Oh, wow.
Crash
nice
bomb.
Setup on that Crash Bomb quick kill.
It's a excellent kill by Creed on Gutsman with the crash bomb. Just the way that works, I assume, is very similar to the way that the Wily machine fight works, where you don't actually want to hit him directly with it. You want to hit below his actual hitbox, and the crash bomb will hit and explode, and it'll do damage every X number of frames. I don't remember off the top of my head, and it basically acts as a quick kill. So that's about as well as you can do that fight when he's weak to crash from Creed. So that's something for sure.
Now, we get to see if kammesennin is going to choose a different item for the dragon. So there are 2 weaknesses to the dragon, and I believe Charged Heat is the second one.
It looks that way, and one of the rules of Buster Only is that if you find something that works, you effectively have to stick with it until you run out of it. So... kammesennin makes some dragon soup out of that, and nice hot dragon soup. And Creed is on his way to some elevator stages in Wily 3. We get regular purple heck apparently, but changed up enemies in it at least.
Yeah, this is kammesennin's gonna have hopefully not too much in the way of flashbacks to that absolutely brutal Heatman stage.
And Creed taking out one of these fire throwers so that he doesn't get tagged while on that ladder. Now he's working his way through. Takes a D-boost and makes his way through down to the last elevator room. This one, Buster Only is... that jump doesn't look super scary, but it feels a lot scary even if you're scary, or even when you're familiar with the game. It's not especially tight, but you're running against a moving platform, and it's definitely something that can trip up inexperienced players, which neither of these 2 guys are, obviously, but just pointing out how easy they make all this look sometimes.
Wow, Leaf Shield being the crash bomb weapon of choice. Looks like the bubble shot's gonna be what takes out our Boo Beam turrets, and kammesennin is on his way into the Picotan fight. Interesting
Arc on these bubbles here for sure. They seem to go almost straight up. And Creed uses that to his advantage to take out that Boo Beam there.
Yeah, this one's gonna be... Oh, there we go. Found that nice little angle for it, so it'd climb back down and take out the turret, and that'll be the Boo Beam fighter for LVCreed. I believe he's on to the refights now.
Yes, he is, and while we were discussing that, kammesennin found that the wood shield is effective against Pika Pika-kun and gets himself a break, a well-deserved break, as Creed teleports into the refight stage. He goes to the left to start. Not that it really matters, but it's I always like to see which direction the runners start on. Do they go left or they go right? Doesn't really make a difference. Just personal preference.
Yeah, I think this should be a fairly uneventful group of boss fights. Heatman is usually the only one that you have to watch out for, but we know he's one of the 4 that take 4 damage from the Buster Shot. So that fight will go a lot quicker than it could otherwise.
This is actually the fight that I would be worried about just based on previous experience. A Buster-only Crashman fight when he only takes 2 damage from the Buster is it is a non-trivial fight for sure. And when he's as aggressive as this version, which is pretty close to regular Mega Man 2 Crashman, There's a nice rhythm you can get into that it looks like Creed has managed to get into, but if you get out of that rhythm, he can start hitting you with bombs left and right and do a lot of damage to you in a short period of time.
Now, see, I would have picked Quickman as being the most problematic, just because of how, and it looks like LVCreed is not going to be able to clutch out the Quickman fight this time around.
I did not realize during the first watch of Quickman's fight that he seems very intent on hugging Mega Man. He just wants to be right beside his buddy there. And one of the things that you'll find in a Buster only run of this is that bosses that want to be on top of Mega Man are probably the absolute worst enemies in the game. They're just they refuse to give Mega any space, and quite a few of them do a good bit of damage through contact, and it can really be rough on you for sure.
Yeah, very true. Since you're only using the Buster, you can shoot left and right. Normally you could switch to something like a Metal Blade to see if you could shoot upward, but at least here in Game 1, we're not going to have any of that madness.
And so Woodman's down. I think Creed has one more Robot Master to go, and it's Airman, which shouldn't be too bad after this first. Once he jumps, I believe because of the water physics. Oh, maybe not. He did not get stuck in the ceiling. Oh no.
Well, there's no mines at the top.
Yeah,
that's fights. That's what Airman gets stuck on when he's in the Bubble Man stage. The mines bring the ceiling down one more tile, and that's what Airman gets stuck on.
Just wanted to point out there, kammesennin managing to jump through the false floors without falling into the spikes.
Oh no!
Oh dear! I'm not sure this can be saved here. It looks like he's gonna try. Wily Machine 1 weak to Buster.
Trying.
And so is 2. That's a Buster only runner's dream to have. I think he's already too low for the elevator to pick him up.
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't look like he's gonna be able to get that elevator down enough. He's almost losing more time going through this than he will just taking the death. But
yeah, I
can't fault the effort.
No, unfortunately, deaths here are just so punishing. I can understand wanting to try to survive here, but that's it. The way that the elevator moves and the way that its hitbox is going to move there, he's already below where he would land. So unfortunately, kammesennin takes a death there.
And while kammesennin was trying to pull off that pause buffer, LVCreed has made it through Victory Road, and we have a very colorful alien.
That's a nice purple color, almost the same color as the purple hell that kammesennin finds himself in currently. Creed using him an E-tank here, so he doesn't have to worry about the alien, and puts the last hit on Alien Wily in an official SRL time of 38:32.
Yeah, that'll do it for LVCreed as he takes Game 1 of this best 2 out of 3 match. kammesennin choosing to use the pause buffer to make a little bit of a turn there instead of damage boosting.
Yeah, in that particular scenario, I'm not sure which one is faster, whether the deboost or the pause buffer is faster. I think it's certainly possible that the pause buffer in the case where you can deboost off of an enemy there is a little slower, but it's effectively negligible at that stage. Just one of those things to think about, and it's a little scary in the heat of the moment to not know exactly what you want to do there.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, in a perfect situation where you can make the turn on the pause buffer without any fear of being hit, I think the pause buffer is the quicker way through, because you have to just travel of longer distance by running into an enemy going with the damage boost route.
Right, but you don't have to do the pauses, so it's I don't know, it's one of those fun you know, things that speedrunners can argue a little bit about if they want which way's faster to do something.
Yeah, it's kind of like which came first, the chicken or the egg, really. I don't think there is you know, a definitive right answer.
No, not as far as I know, that's for sure.
But yeah, actually, Daggett came up with a good point in the chat, saying that he was worried about his HP, and he ended the Boo Beam turret fight with, I believe, 4 ticks of energy left. Well, even though he did end up taking the damage trying for a pause buffer in Elevator 3.
Right, that makes sense. They do hit pretty hard as far as standard enemies go. And you see kammesennin making his way through his refights. Working on Woodman right now, who is not weak to Buster, but because of the way that the Leaf Shield works and iframes work for Mega Man, it's possible to kind of wedge yourself in between the shield and him and just mash into him while that shield's up. And it's certainly not the worst way to go about fighting him in a Buster only fight. So
yeah, Woodman has kind of that little sweet spot that you can get into where when Mega Man's arm reaches out, it actually gets inside of the sprite of the Leaf Shield, and it hits Woodman.
Right, and if you're doing it correctly, you'll actually only be hit by the shield and not the and not Woodman himself, who also does quite a bit of damage when you contact him directly. He hits like the big boy he is.
I think between Woodman and Airman, there's 2 of the bosses I know I do not want to end up taking direct contact damage with, because they will body you for about 8 to 10 damage.
Yeah, they definitely hit. They both hit pretty hard. Luckily, most of the enemies are. Most of the bosses don't hit quite that hard. Although it looks like Flashman does about 4 on contact here. And kammesennin is working his way through him.
A bit of damage that kammesennin was taking. Looks like it might have been 6, actually. But either way, I'd rather get hit by his... I guess we could call them Buster shots, but, you know, again, getting bodied by the bosses is not an advisable strategy, no matter which boss we're talking about.
No, absolutely not. And I think kammesennin is going to be happy to see the weakness for the Wily Machine here. So this is I think the weakness that he wants to see when he plays this randomizer is back-to-back Buster weaknesses for the Wily Machine, and make short work of that, no problem. Now we get the short or long walk to the alien.
I think with the minimal amount of energy that either of the runners have used, I think you're going to see them all fall to the right on what I like to call Victory Road here, as you only have the last fight with the alien left. And if you run out of energy, you kind of have the fallback plan of, okay, I can figure out what I need, pick up the weapon energy, and finish it off. But kammesennin, I believe once he finds the Leaf Shield to be the weakness, will finish off Game 1 here. What I want to go back to is the Wily Machine in the previous stage has a 50% chance of being Buster weak. And if that is the case, it will be Buster weak for both phases. If it is not Buster weak, then it gets a little tricky because all of the other weapons have a 50% chance of being what is weak, and it switches between Phase 1 and Phase 2.
Right.
On that note, go for it.
Kammesennin finishes with an official SRL time of 44:52, and that is the end of the first race. They're gonna take a minute here to get sorted out and get a new seed for race 2. But it looks like we'll have our second race coming up here in a short while. It seems like neither of the runners were particularly fond of that Heatman stage, that's for sure.
Yeah, I can certainly sympathize with them both. That was a very difficult stage.
Absolutely, that was most certainly not the kind of Heatman stage you want. Heatman tends to be a pretty difficult stage to begin with, and unfortunately, he's that opening stage has a lot of things that can kill you. There's falls into pits, falls into lava, and when you start adding laggy enemies, I mean, you make the degree of difficulty there very, very high. We saw that in the race. Creed was able to get through with some use of E-tanks, and kammesennin just didn't have quite a... I think he only had one, and it took Creed one attempt and an extra E-tank to make it through, and kammesennin didn't quite have that luxury, and it ended up costing him quite a bit of time, because that was actually the point where they separated. They were pretty much dead even at the start of that stage, if I remember correctly.
LVCreed had a slight advantage, but after he had taken his first death, kammesennin by proxy had a few seconds lead, and then it was just a war of attrition that LVCreed, with having the advantage of the 2 energy tanks, was able to mitigate that sheer amount of damage that was being dealt by the Joes and their mech armors.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing there is that when you have those particular enemies, it's bad because you can be dropped into a one-hit kill pit, but because the mechs do so much damage, trying to continue to move forward, you're just when you take a hit by those mechs, they do between, I think it's 8 or 10 damage, and so that's that's a sizable amount of damage for Mega Man to take. And then you add in that you're constantly trying to avoid the shots that are on screen that tend to lag the screen in the first place, and you're already making these jumps where you're landing on a single tile. It just exponentially increases how hard that screen is to do, and doing it Buster only makes it all the more difficult. So, just great work by both of them to get through it. Just an unfortunate bit of just not having the same amount of E-tanks and not having the few utilities that Buster only allows for kammesennin to make his way through there.
Well, the good thing is kammesennin, after I think going 110% tilt mode in that Heatman stage, hopefully was able to recover and able to build the a positive vibe going into game 2. I kind of say that the one thing I want to do if I know I'm behind in game 1 is just try to find something positive to grasp onto and go, all right, this happened, this is gonna turn things, hopefully have that little drop in the bucket start to build up and just turn into a giant wave of, momentum, and that hopefully kammesennin can push into his favor.
Absolutely. I mean, it was a close race until Heatman. It's not, and that kind of thing can happen to any runner where they get hung up on any given stage. And it's and again, just to reiterate, Buster only adds a degree of difficulty to Randomizer that is, that it really ups the difficulty, because all of the utilities, all of the one toys that you get in the Randomizer, you don't really get to play with any of those. You're just walking in there. You have your basic Buster, and you're getting through is with minimal help from anything else that you can get. And there's no there's very little that can make the game much harder than that, honestly. As far as I can say, I think that playing Buster only on a Randomizer seed that's a heck of a thing to be able to do with consistency, and to see both these guys pull it off so well is pretty impressive, I have to say. So it looks like they have a new seed. They're working on getting that sorted out. Let's see. Trying to make sure that I watching the most up-to-date stream here. They're the runners are getting themselves set. They had a bit of a as Frico and I have been saying, that was a pretty rough seed. So I think I think it's well deserved that these guys go get a cold beverage and rest their hands a little bit, do some hand stretches, keep yourself limber for the next run as they get ready to go.
Yeah, sorry for disappearing a little bit. I seem to have a bit of the Mr. Destructoids again, and unfortunately I am looking at a black screen, which makes things a little difficult to commentate on.
Yes, unfortunately that's where I also find myself.
Oh no. Oh boy.
Trying to make sure that we get this set up so we can continue to say our semi-informed things on the course of the run.
Wait a second. Are you trying to say we're supposed to know what we're doing here?
I mean, I said semi-informed. I didn't want to, I didn't want to, make any judgments about how much, anybody knows, but
hey, come on now. Every village has to have their idiot. And I have no problem playing that role whatsoever.
Well, I for one say that our village is happy to have you.
Yeah, I think we're gonna try to resolve this minor little issue with the black screen, and hopefully this will be resolved soon, and we can get game 2 on the way.
Yeah, I might wonder what the problem seems to be here. Let me fire up a few other web screens here and pull up the internet. maybe might be okay now. Give us a second here. Sorry for the technical difficulty.
I think we might have hit a button we shouldn't have, and yeah, you know, the dog ate my homework or something like that.
All right, I seem to be good.
Uh-oh. I unfortunately still have a black screen, which is hopefully something that I can there we go. Okay, we're gonna switch over. Oh, I have a stream again.
Alrighty. Good news. Good news, everyone.
I can see what's going on again. I approve of this.
It looks like we have both runners. They have their second seed, which looks to be HHDGCA. Doesn't mean anything, just a string of random letters, but it does all those few letters there. They make all the magic happen in this randomizer. They switch everything around and change all the buttons and all the weapons and everything. So,
well, we can't say they don't matter, because if anybody wants to play along at home, they could actually, I believe, go to the randomizer site and input that code, and they will be able to play the exact same version of the game that both of our runners will be playing for this race in Game 2.
I know that there are actually quite a few folk in the Mega Man 2 Randomizer Discord that that's how they watch these runs, is they put the seed in and they play along at home. So it's kind of like the Mega Man 2 Randomizer home game. You know, it's you get to do it at home, and you get to have some fun with and race against your favorite speedrunners. It's a good time for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like we've started the countdown for Game 2 to commence, so we should be underway with Game 2 in very near future. I didn't catch what country we were playing in, but I believe it was Ninja Gaiden that we were playing in Game